Kitco News special coverage of the Denver Gold Forum is brought to you by New Pacific Metals.
You're watching Kitco News. I'm Michelle McCory at the Denver Gold Forum in Colorado Springs. And joining me now is the man who essentially founded the mining royalty sector. Pierre Lassonde is the co-founder of the Franco-Nevada Corporation, the first publicly traded gold royalty company. Pierre has also served as president of Newmont Mining and as chairman of the World Gold Council. Pierre, great to have you with us, albeit virtually.
Well, thank you very much for having me. It's always a pleasure to be on Kitco with you. And I always look forward to this interview.
Well, it's a pity we can't do this in person. But nonetheless, let's start off with what you said last time you were in Kitco. And you conveyed a very, very bullish sentiment regarding copper. You said that the best deposit in the world that you can have or find is a copper gold deposit, a copper gold silver, or a copper silver deposit, but something with copper. Are you still that bullish?
Absolutely, 100%. And, you know, in a way, the greening of the world is going to be a renaissance of copper mining. And I don't think that it has clued in with the governments and maybe with the environmental groups, but the intensity of copper use going forward will essentially triple. So over the next 40 years, we're going to have to triple the production of copper. And when you look at where we are today and the number of deposits that we have, a lot of them are on their last legs. The effort that will be required in exploration and development is absolutely outstanding. And when you look at that, you know, just to continue, I love the fact that Canada is, never forget this, the second largest land mass in the world. And where do you find deposit? On land. So Canada is going to be the center of mining for the next 50 years like you have never seen before.
All right, well, to your point that the going green movement, the decarbonization trend is going to fuel tremendous demand in copper. What are the opportunities that, as an investor, you can capitalize on now?
Well, for example, you know, look, in my case, I invested already 10 years ago in a company called Foran Mining with a deposit in northern Saskatchewan. It's a copper zinc deposit with silver as well. And it will be the first base metal mine, copper, zinc, with zero carbon emission. So we want to be at the very forefront of the greening of the world. And using hydroelectric and using underground equipment, we're able to do this. And that is at the forefront of being in the copper mining business in Canada. And I think there's got to be a lot more exploration for copper in Canada. That is not there yet. We're not seeing it, but I think it will come.
Are you starting to see investment in some junior miners that focus on copper? As you say, the trend is very clear: going green, need more copper, not enough copper. Is this translating into more investment for junior miners yet?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, just to go back to Foran, Prem Watsa, he is called the Warren Buffett of Canada, has invested over 100 million in the company in the last three months, I believe. So, you know, here's someone totally from the outside, never invested in the mining business before, who decides to put 100 million in copper mining in Canada. That is incredibly encouraging.
At the same time, though, for a mining royalty company, you're also faced with unprecedentedly low interest rates around the world. How does that impact the mining royalty side of the business?
Well, the mining royalty side of the business is really today a funding mechanism for mine development in particular. So Franco-Nevada, for example, put in over $1.2 billion in Cobre Panama for the development of this $6.4 billion copper mine. And through that, it gained a royalty, which is frankly a copper gold royalty. And you will see more type of deals like that. And then as an investor in Franco-Nevada, you get a dividend that's more than 1%. So that's how you really have to play the game today.
But do you see miners perhaps trying to go it alone because they can get loans at such cheaper rates rather than relying on gold mining or copper mining royalty companies to help them finance operations?
The biggest competitors to the royalty companies is the market itself. They're the bankers who can do equity financing, because at the end of the day, equity financing is always the cheapest method of financing. But when the investors are risk off, like we seem to see today, then the competition essentially vanishes, and the only ones left are the other mining royalty companies or the private equity companies.
Well, as we mentioned, ESG, a big concern that's driving the decarbonization movement. But what impact is it having on the mining sector? Because there's the notion put out there that it's very environmentally damaging to be looking for copper, silver, rare earth, that in itself requires more diligence in being environmentally safe. How are you seeing ESG concerns impacting the sector?
Well, there is no choice. That's the incredible situation that we're in. If you want a decarbonized world, the energy that we're using, which is today petroleum-based, carbon-based, will have to be electricity-based. And the only way to carry that electricity is copper. There's no other way. There's nothing else in the world. So if you want, a greener world, you're going to have to accept that you're going to have far more mining in the world.
But copper, silver, rare earth, all those mines and the activity that goes with it, how do you counter the argument that is also environmentally damaging? Do you think that at some point the pendulum swings and maybe there's a realization that, hey, maybe it's not the best idea to decarbonize completely because mining operations cause their own level of damage?
You know what? When you look at the mining impact on the world, for example, the Foran mine in northern Saskatchewan, like zero carbon emission, underground mining, very hardly any surface expression. When you're done, you go back to Mother Nature. I think that people in Canada understand that. We've lived with mining our entire, country life, and we are going to be mining for the next hundreds of years. So, in fact, Canada has a tremendous advantage on ESG because we have put in place the rules and the regulations to be able to mine properly and account for the people, the communities around, and the air quality and the water quality. And if anything, we should, in fact, be, even more at the forefront and, develop what we have here, because we are far more responsible than other places in the world.
Well, exactly to your point, with this rising concern of ESG, do you see more mining operations moving to first-tier jurisdictions like North America and perhaps away from others?
Yeah, I think that there is if you look at, for example, the share price of, let me give you a very quick example, Barrick Newmont, okay? Very similar companies, very, similar output. And yet Barrick has a discount to net asset value compared to Newmont. You could say, well, why? Because, both executives do a good job. They produce what they want. At the end of the day, I believe the reason is because of country location. You look at the mine of Barrick, they're in countries that are not either AAA or AA or even single A's. They're in difficult countries where ESG is not exactly at the forefront, like in the Congo, for example, or how you get your money out of that place. And so the investors do account for that by discounting the value of the company. It's very real. It's there.
Speaking of geographic locations, there have been some developments in Mexico. The government seems to have been taking a tougher position on mining operations there, also wanting a bigger piece of the pie when it comes to taxes. Chile also has a new constitution that could be coming in place from a very far left perspective that could also impact regulation and taxes there. What's your geopolitical outlook on where the mining sector is potentially facing its toughest challenges at the moment?
Our industry is subject, just like the the New York market, to what I call greed and fear. And when the commodity prices are flying and the companies are making a lot of money, the politicians look around, where can we grab easy money? And it's those bad, big foreign companies are making money off our back. And then when the commodity price is down at zero, they have no investment, they have no jobs, people are, suffering. And then they open the doors wide open, come and invest your money, you'll be good here. It's a cycle, it's a pendulum. And right now, because of where the commodity prices are, the pendulum is swinging all the way to the far right. And yes, you have, this greed factor that's coming up. And there's another reason why, when you look at AAA countries, Canada, Australia, the US, there is such a stability of regime, a taxation regime, mining regime, ESG, that there's real value in putting your money in these countries.
All right, well, you touched on taxes and stability. Want to get your macro outlook on this potential of a global minimum corporate tax rate. What does that mean for companies like yours in the mining sector? And do you see that happening?
I'm not sure that, I think that there's a will by the US government in particular to instill a minimum tax. We have it in Canada, for example, for private citizen, okay? Like you're paying a 12% minimum tax no matter what your tax bill is going to be. Even if you try to make it zero, it doesn't exist. Can they make it happen at the world scale? Maybe. Frankly, it would not be a bad thing at all. The mining companies always end up paying 50% taxes anyway. So it won't affect the mining sector, I don't think, in any way, shape, or form.
All right. You mentioned cycles and governments wanting a bigger piece of the pie because there's a high demand in commodities. Are we in a commodity super cycle?
Yeah, we are. And we will be for the next 20 years for the very reason that I mentioned, is that, for the past 50, 60 years, the metal intensity that we are using in developing economy has been going down, and the energy intensity has been going up. So we are replacing metal intensity with energy intensity. By shifting to a green world, we're actually going to do the opposite. We're going to have to end up using far more iron ore, far more steel, all these machines to produce hydrogen, all these machines to produce, sun power, to produce wind power. They're enormous, complex machine with a lot of steel, a lot of aluminum, a lot of copper. And so the intensity is turning around. And when you look at where we are today in the developed world, we're not prepared. Like the environmentalists have not figured this out yet. But, the intensity of metal is going to be increasing over the next 20, 30 years, which means we need more mines, a lot more. And the commodity prices will have to support the development of those mines, which, because of permitting and building and construction and everything else, takes anywhere from 10 to 15 years. So we are going to be in a sustained commodity price environment. We're not going back here to like $1 copper. Okay, like that's not going to happen. We're not going to go back to $2 nickel or like 70 cents aluminum. Not going to happen.
But what about silver? Because silver, of course, is integral to electric vehicles, to a range of electronics, and of course, solar panels, the going green movement at large. And it hasn't really been reflecting this potential or inevitable surge in demand.
No, you're absolutely right. And it will take a bit more time because most of the silver is byproducts of other mining operations, byproduct of zinc mining, byproduct of copper mining, like 70% of the silver. So it doesn't react anywhere near as fast as gold mining, for example, or copper, which is 100% primary production. So I think that the silver price will react, but it's always going to be sort of like delayed by a few years compared to the rest of the commodity complex.
Do you have an outlook on silver?
I am just as bullish on silver as I am on gold, and I am very bullish on gold at this point in time. Very.
All right, can I peg you down with a number and a timeline? How bullish, Pierre?
Well, I can give you one, but not both. Okay, like that's asking.
All right, I'm going to go with gold then. Let's go with gold.
I think my goal is that I believe that we will see. If you look at the next 18 months, I think we're going to see $2,300 an ounce in the next 18 months.
15 months, $2,300. And what's going to trigger that? Because the inflation is being dismissed by most investors. They're buying that the Fed is saying that it's transitory. So what triggers that 2,300 gold level?
Investors have an incredible confidence in the Fed being the all seeing, all doing God that can do everything. They're not. The Fed has been wanting inflation now for a number of years, and you know what? They're going to get it, and they're going to get it in spade. I'm looking at inflation rate of 5 to 10% over the next year, and it's going to become embedded. And because commodity prices, I repeat again, are not going back down. So when you have sustained commodity prices, high sustained commodity prices, it impacts everything that we produce as a society. And on top of that, the dollar, I think, is going to come down, which will create even more inflationary pressure on the system. And I think that that's what's going to, move gold. Right now, the algos in New York, they all program their computer. Well, the Fed has to raise interest rates if inflation goes up. Therefore, the dollar is going to go up and gold's going to go down. The Fed is in a box. They cannot raise interest rates. Okay, the amount of debt that we have is so huge that if the Fed raise interest rates by even 1%, they're going to put the economy into the dump. Do you think they're going to do that? No, they're going to choose inflation to run. And I think you're going to continue to see negative interest rate, and you're going to see much higher gold prices. That's what I see.
But when does the market lose faith in the Fed?
When you start to see CPI numbers of 5, 6, 7% months after months after months, and you're seeing the interest rate not going up at all.
Okay. Now, what are you doing in the gold space? Because I believe you have some ventures in the gold front currently happening.
Oh, yes. You know what? A few years ago, when I was planning my retirement out of Franco-Nevada, I was looking around and where do I think, the future lies? And one, to me, was gold and copper. Okay. It was like, go in, put all your chips in and put them on, number 8, because that's the winning number here. And so one of the company we created was Orla Mining. We're developing our first mine. We'll be in production. It's in Mexico. It's well ahead of the time and construction. Everything is going well. We have a copper gold deposit in Panama. I love Panama. I think we can develop this. This is going to be something special. And then in the silver gold sector, Prime Mining is another company that, I help shepherd to where it is today. We have a discovery of something very, very high grade copper gold deposit, very special. I'm thankful for the people that I work with. I've got such great people, and we're having a lot of fun.
Okay, I'm having fun. So I'm going to circle back and try to get a number on the silver price from you.
Oh, on the silver price, look, I think that if we see $2,300 gold, as I believe we'll see, you'll see silver price will lag for a while. The silver is sort of like the 11th hour sort of like metal. It rallies in the last minute of the gold market, and then it takes over gold in terms of performance. I think we have a few more years to go. So I'm a bit more subdued, if you want, on the silver price, but I'm looking easily at around, $30 to $32 for the next 18 months, but not a whole lot more. I think if you look a bit longer term, you could see much higher prices.
All right. Well, Pierre, you have clearly been a success on many, many fronts. And before I let you go, I wonder if you could share a pearl of wisdom or a gold nugget of truth with our viewers that's been a guiding principle in your life?
You know what, the thing that I owe my success to is really surrounding myself with great people. At the end of the day, great people make great things happen. And I don't have to tell you about bad people. So the quality of the individuals that create and form these companies and that I work with is what the biggest blessing that I have, is to be able to work with, quality people, honest, hardworking, and they make things happen. And that's, like the only secret. And it goes for investing as well, and philanthropy.
Well, great people make great things happen, and it's been great to chat to you. So thank you so much for joining us, Pierre Lassonde. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Always a pleasure.
All right, and thank you for watching Kitco News. I'm Michelle McCory. Keep it right here.
Kitco News special coverage of the Denver Gold Forum is brought to you by New Pacific Metals.